Hello, my name is Reese Summers, and this is my This I Believe. I believe in the word "and" because it taught me the difference between curing and managing my mental struggles. At the ripe age of 5, I started developing anxiety and symptoms of OCD. And one day, when I was in 2nd grade, I came in sick to school and was ousted out of the classroom. It was that day, I think, that my anxiety manifested into emetophobia, the fear of vomiting. I had had panic attacks before, but now they came frequently. It was at that time that I started therapy at the age of 7. Going into my 3rd grade year, the attacks became completely debilitating. I couldn't go anywhere because I was so afraid something was going to happen. I started skipping school, and my mom had to coax me through the doors and into the guidance counselor's arms in order for me to go in. It continued this way until I switched schools at the end of my 4th grade year. For most of my middle school time, I was offered respite from panic attacks. Instead, my anxiety migrated to school and grades. For the first time, I became aware of how I was doing in school because I was able to view my grades at the end of each term. As I progressed through middle school, I started to understand that if I received good grades, I was praised by my teachers and parents, so reinforcing the behavior. By the time I entered my freshman year, I found that it was unacceptable by my own standards to earn anything less than an A-. And every term that passed, I strived for higher grades in each class. A- became all A's, and all A's became A+. And suddenly, I found that if I earned anything less than a 97 on any assignment, I believed that I wasn't a good person, that I wasn't smart. My self-worth had become completely entangled with the numbers that I was receiving. When in middle school, I would only know my grades twice a year. Now I could check daily. By the middle of my junior year, not an hour would go by where I wouldn't check my grades. We all know junior year is rough. I mean, they tell you at the beginning of the year, but mine was a different type of rough. After so many years of working endlessly on assignments to get the grade I wanted, I felt done, burnt out. Every day was the same. Go to school, go to sports, come home, and do 3+ hours of homework. I didn't even recognize that I was depressed because I knew that if I took the time off, I would never recover. So I buried my emotions away and went to school. I started procrastinating on work, which I had never done before. I turned things in late and didn't find the joy in learning. It wasn't until spring that I finally broke down. All of the work had piled up, and I no longer had the energy to do it. I initially took a 2-week break to finish my work and catch up on sleep. But after those 2 weeks were up, I still wasn't ready to come back, so I decided to take a medical leave. I felt as though my life had ended, and I was left with a person I didn't know anymore. You see, from a young age, I knew that I wanted to go to a good college. And as soon as I was in high school, I realized that I needed to take the hardest classes each year so that I could get into one. After college, I would go to grad school and then maybe med school, and nothing could interfere with that plan. It was all planned out. And when I went on medical leave, I felt that plan disappear. I believed that I could no longer be or do any of those things I wanted to be because I had fallen off the path. The grief that I felt was enormous. During my medical leave, I stayed at a residential treatment program for 12 weeks, where I learned the difference between curing and managing my mental illnesses. At the 3's program at McLean Hospital, I learned all of the skills of dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT. A dialectic is the belief that two opposing things can exist and be true at the same time. You can hate your parents for making you do something, and you can love them for making you do it. Someone who has significant mental illnesses can be constantly afraid and feel joy. I grew up with this belief that medication and therapy can cure your mental illness. When I went on meds for the first time when I was 10, I felt enormous relief. So I believed that when I went to the residential center, I simply needed to find the right medication and do enough therapy, and I would be cured. This belief, for me at least, stems from the idea that mental illness is curable or treatable, and to get rid of it, you only need to find the right treatment. One day, about halfway through my stay at the residential treatment center, I realized that I wasn't ever going to be without my mental illnesses. Yes, I could lessen my symptoms with medication and hard work in therapy, but all of those things happening to me weren't going to magically go away. Viewing my mental illness as treatable invalidated the struggles that I have every day. But now I believe that mental illness is something that you have to manage. In DBT, this act is called radical acceptance. I had to radically accept my mental illnesses and struggles in order for me to really accept and understand who I am. Another one of my beliefs was shattered while I was at the residential center. This belief that there is only one path to take where you want to go, to get where you want to go. Be a good student, get into a good college, and so forth. I realized that I can still do and be all of those things and take a different path to get there. Before my medical leave, I believed that there was only one way for me to be a valued person, and that was to get the best grades, to get the best awards, to get into the best college, and eventually to have the best life. But this thinking led me to believe that I wasn't valuable unless I was on that path. When I got off it, I was able to understand that there are so many ways to be valuable and to make a path for yourself. I have learned that in life, you have to allow yourself to have the and. I can be struggling and I can have a good day. I can have mental health struggles and be seen as a good student. I can go on medical leave and I can carve my own path to success. That is not to say I only have good days now. I very often have bad ones. But my journey is no longer about the symptoms and the days that I'm having. It's about how I'm managing them. For me, managing your mental health is about accepting who you are every day, whoever and whatever you are. And in the words of the musical theater legend Stephen Sondheim, must it all be either less or more, either plain or grand? Is it always or? Is it never and? Thank you.